So, the next thing that we're going to explore is another form of decision control called a switch statement. And it has some of the functionality of if statements. Actually, it doesn't allow you to quite as much. It doesn't allow you to use Boolean operators, but it is quite handy if you are trying to find specific values. So, for example, here's how you open a switch statement, and it's going to be based on a value, in this case, grade. You see here that I'm picking a random grade somewhere between 5 and 8. So this generates a random between 5 and 8. Then, based on what the value is, I have different cases, they're called within. So you just write case, you write what you want it to be. So in case it's 5 and a semicolon, then you do this. If it comes out 6, it will do this. 7, this, etc. And at the end, I have a default, which will happen if none of the other cases are reached. So I'm going to run this, and it might be a little surprising what happens when you see it at first. Um, okay, so this came to sixth, and you'll notice that it printed all of these, which is perhaps not the expected behavior, right? What happens here is it runs through the code, and the case statement simply drops you in at the part of the code. So, for example, if it picks 7, it would come into here and do what's at 7 and everything below. So, actually, that's funny. Random, but I got exactly what I said. It did 7th and everything below. That might not be what your intuition would expect to do or what you want to do. So, what frequently happens with case statements is after we do what we want to do with a particular case statement, we put a break statement. Break statement have use beyond switches, but it basically gets you out of the current scope of whatever you're in. I'm going to go through and I'm going to add a bunch of break statements here. And so now it will only do one thing. As soon as it prints it out, it hits the break statement, thereby leaving the switch statement, and it will not duplicate code. Now, if I run it, it's going to do one of these things. So this one says eighth grade, run it again. It's going to pick another one at random, picked eighth grade again, which is possible. There are only four. Seventh grade. Um, and now, if it doesn't pick any of them, this default is going to just handle all the cases where it doesn't work. So it shouldn't hit the default here because they've carefully allowed it to go. I've calibrated my random so that it's either 5, 6, 7, or 8. But let's say it wasn't. Let's say that this was like 12, right? And if I run that, then there's a decent chance that it's not going to be. And it prints this for your grade I don't even know, which is the default. So we're going to learn how to use this. This is another way to control. It's really good. I think it really shines for if you have a basic kind of menu selection and you want to choose from a finite amount of options. Somewhere between like 3 and 8 is pretty optimal. Can get a little crazy once you get far beyond that. And if you just have a couple things, an if statement's usually better. This next example, you can see that you can actually switch on a string value as well. So it the put in here an answer, yes. I've just hard coded it, but it will go into the case statement. It prints the me too and does a break. So if I were to change this, it's going to just compare. So no, I don't need to do the dot equals. It is basically doing it for me when it compares it. So I do no, it prints why not. And if I print something other than those, it's going to go to the default and should just print So again, you can use it here. Now, it doesn't usually make sense to do that if you're just hard coding it because you would know which way you want the flow to go. But you can see that if you type something, if you get it from a scanner, then this might be a good way to handle some basic input from a scanner. So that is the switch statement, and we are going to learn more about that next week. Thank you.